writers, it's time for another grammar moment. We're going to continue our focus on commas this week because in my experience as a writer, commas are probably the biggest thing that leave me confused when I'm writing. I never know whether I'm supposed to put one in or take one out or if I've got too many or too few. So we're going to spend a few more weeks focusing on the most common comma offenses. And remember, we don't want anyone to be offending. We want to be offense-free in our grammar. So, we're going to continue talking about how commas are good and they are useful tools for writers when writers are trying to get you, the reader, to pause as you're reading something, or sometimes they are used just for their effect alone. So we're going to explore that a little bit in our grammar moment today. Last week, I introduced you to fanboys. I hope that as you've been reading this week, you have noticed how commas are used to separate two independent clauses or two complete sentences when there is a conjunction between them. So remember, it's complete sentence, comma, one of the fanboys, and then another complete sentence. All right? Now, today's rule is going to be in the 5th grade book, it is Rule 14, and in the 6th grade book, it is Rule 9. So I'll read the rule to you, and then I'll help you understand it in plain English. So the rule is, use a comma to clarify or make clear a sentence. To me, that's not very helpful. Really, it's not that. So I thought I would try to help you make better sense of that. What they're really saying is a comma is used between a complete sentence and some sort of an opener or an introductory element of a sentence that is not a complete sentence. So basically, if a sentence begins with a phrase, a clause, or a transition, you probably need a comma. Now, I'm going to help you to better understand that. I have another visual for you, and then we're going to look to one of my favorite books that I shared with you in class today, Verdi. We're going to look for some examples, and I think we're about to have a cat fight. You two behave. Leo, behave. Okay, so last week I introduced you to fanboys. Today, I'm introducing you to awoobies. You're saying, what? I'm introducing you to awoobis. Well, I had to put Leo in the bathroom behind me, so hopefully he won't give us any more problems and we'll have no further interruptions. Let's get back to awoobis. So awoobis is just the acronym for the most frequently used words that start an opener of a sentence. So although, after, as, when, until, because, before, if, since. Now remember I said that these are the most common ones. They are not the only ones, but these are examples of the most common ones. So if you can remember awoobis, there it is, awoobis, maybe that will help you remember that these words are usually the beginning of a phrase that is set off from a complete sentence with a comma. So let's take a look at what that looks like in literature. I'm going to show you an example of this type of sentence and comma use when an awoobis is used, and then one where one is not used. So I'm back in Verdi, and this is in the middle of the text, so sorry I can't read you the whole story. But here's the sentence. Before the fish could haul Verdi under, the frightened snake bit him on the nose. Did you catch the awoobis? It's the word before. So the phrase is, before the fish could haul Verdi under, comma, pause, the frightened snake bit him on the nose. What I want to do is read it to you without the comma so that you can see the difference, because I want you to understand that commas, remember that writers use commas for pause and effect. So it's a tool that you can use to cause your reader to do something when they read your sentence. So let me read it without the comma. Before the fish could haul Verdi under, the frightened snake bit him on the nose. Think about how that sounds versus when I put the comma back in. Before the fish could haul Verdi under, the frightened snake bit him on the nose. Let me do that again. Before the fish could haul Verdi under, the frightened snake bit him on the nose. Doesn't it sound better with the comma in it? So let's go back and refresh our memory. Awubis is the first word of a phrase that is set off from the whole rest of the sentence with a comma. Now remember, when I use the word sentence here, it's because it's a complete sentence. The phrase here that begins with the awubis is not a complete sentence. It's different from this rule because remember, this rule is where a fanboy and a comma separates two complete sentences. In this sentence, before the fish could haul Verdi under, that's not a complete sentence. The frightened snake bit him on the nose. That's the complete sentence. Now let's take a look at an example where it still follows this pattern. The difference is that an awubis is not used. Because remember, these are the most common ones, but you're going to find many sentences that just start with an opener or an introductory phrase, but they don't necessarily start with an awubis. So listen to this sentence. I'm going to read it both ways so that you can hear. Hoping to find snakes that weren't so boring, Verdi slipped away. There's the picture. It's this last sentence right here. See if you can pick up on the phrase part of the sentence and then the complete sentence part of the sentence. I'll read it again. Hoping to find snakes that weren't so boring, comma, Verdi slipped away. Now let me read it to you with the comma taken out. See the difference. Hoping to find snakes that weren't so boring, Verdi slipped away. It just doesn't feel the same or sound the same, does it? It sounds better when we put that comma in it, which makes sense because that's what our rule says. Our rule says use a comma to clarify or make clear a sentence. So let me read that sentence to you again. Hoping to find snakes that weren't so boring, Verdi slipped away. I think that is a beautiful example of pause and effect. I hope that this grammar moment has taught you a little bit more about commas. I hope that you are beginning to feel a bit more confident with them. I hope that now you'll be on the lookout this week for sentences that begin with an opener, which remember is some sort of a clause or a phrase. Then there's a comma and then a complete sentence. I hope you're on the lookout for those awubis. And I also hope that you continue to look for compound sentences separated with a comma and a fanboys. Have fun, and I'll see you next week. Bye now.